Today's mini lesson is going to be adding and subtracting fractions. The reason we're going to do this together is because they're the same steps, just one you're going to add the two numbers together, one you're going to subtract the two. So we're going to begin with an addition problem, and then from there we'll head to a subtraction problem and just kind of compare the similarities between the two. Alright, so we're going to start with this problem here. We have 2/5 plus 2/3. First thing that we need to do, step one, is always going to be to find that common denominator. Alright, we need to find the greatest common factor, which is just a fancy way for saying what number can we get both the 5 and the 3 to down here. So when I think about that, 5, 3, the easiest number that I can get those both to is 15. So the first thing I'm going to do is going to rewrite these fractions so that they both have a common denominator of 15. In order to do this, we're going to have to multiply the 3 by a 5 to make it 15. Likewise, over here, we're going to have to take the 5 and multiply that by 3 to give us the 15. So when I rewrite those fractions, I end up with 6/15 and 10/15. And then here is where adding and subtracting become a little different. And here's the only difference. Adding, I'm going to add across my numerator. So I'm going to take 6 plus 10 to give me 16. But the denominator stay the same. When you find that common denominator, that stays. So I'm going to have 16 over 15. If this were a subtraction problem, we would take the 10 minus, or the 6 minus the 10, and then that would give us a different numerator. So the only difference here with adding and subtracting is just one, we're going to add the numerators. Subtraction, we're going to subtract the two numerators, but the denominator stays the same. So we've put them together into one fraction, and we end up getting 16 over 15. From here then, there's two things that we always want to make sure we do when we're doing fractions. And it might not say this in the directions, but it's always implied. First thing we want to do is make sure that if the fraction can be reduced, that it can be. In this case, 16 over 15 can't be reduced, so we don't have to worry about that. But the second thing we always want to make sure that we do, always take an improper fraction and turn it into a mixed number by noticing that the numerator is larger than our denominator in this case. So the way that we go about doing that is we take the denominator and we think, how many times can it go into my numerator? How many times can 15 go into 16? Well, that's going to be once, so that then becomes our whole number, and then anything that is a remainder goes on top of our fraction. So we're going to have 1, 15 goes into 16 once, like we said, with a remainder of 1. And then our denominator always stays the same. So then it's 1/15. The answer to this problem is 1 and 1/15. The second problem that we're going to do then, like I said, is going to be a subtraction problem. This time, though, we're going to mix in some mixed numbers into this and talk about how do we solve that if we do have mixed numbers. Whenever dealing with fractions and having mixed numbers, I would always recommend turning them back into improper fractions. And the way that we go about doing this is a method that we refer to as swoosh. We take our denominator and we multiply it times our whole number. So 8 times 3 is 24, and then you add your numerator. So 24 plus 3 is going to give me 27. That becomes then your numerator, and you put that over top of your denominator again, which stays the same. Same thing over here. We would take our denominator times our whole number, so 6 times 1 is 6. Add our numerator, which is 11, and then again, it remains over 6, so this would be 11/6. Now that we've converted both of our mixed numbers into improper fractions, we then can follow the same steps that we were using with addition. Just instead of adding the numbers, we're going to subtract. So again, that first thing that we want to do then is find that common denominator. So I think about 6 and 8. What number can I get both of those to? And as I think about that, the first number that comes to mind, the smallest number that I can do this for, is going to be 24. So I'm going to multiply this fraction here by 3, because 8 times 3 gives me 24. Over here, I'm going to take 6 times 4, and that will also give me 24. So now I'm going to rewrite them after I multiply by those given numbers. First, it became 81 over 24 minus 44 over 24. And again, like I said with addition, these steps are all the same. So my next thing that I'm going to do, instead of adding across my numerators, I'm going to subtract in this case. So I'm going to take 81 minus 44. That's going to become my next numerator, and then again, the denominator stays the same. So you get 37 over 24 when you subtract across your numerators. Again, there are two rules that are always implied with dealing with fractions. The first one is to see, is 37 and 24 reducible? Do those numbers have anything in common? In this problem, again, they do not, so we don't have to do that step. The second thing we want to check for is 37 24ths improper. And again, we notice that the numerator is larger than our denominator, so that means it is an improper fraction. We need to convert this back into a mixed number. So we need to think about how many times does 24 go into 37, and when we think about that, we decide that it can only go in once. Again, then, any remainders becomes our numerator. So when we think about how many times 24 goes into 37, we said once. That leaves us with a remainder of 13. From here, then, the denominator again stays the same. So it's going to be 13 over 24. The answer to this problem is 1 and 13 24ths. Okay. From here, now that we've gone through an addition example and a subtraction example, hopefully that refreshes your memory. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys 3 problems. I'm going to have you pause the video. I will then, after that brief delay, give you the answers. That way you can try them on your own, hit play then when you're done, and you can see how you did on those 3 problems. So here are your 3 problems. I want you guys to copy these down. I want you to pause the video, try them on your own. Use those steps. Find that common denominator first, multiply to get them that common denominator, then add or subtract, and then from there you're going to reduce if you can, and if it's an improper fraction, you're going to convert that back into a mixed number. Once you've done that for all 3 of these, unpause the video, and then I will give you the answers, and that way you can check and see how you did. Alright, so at this point, here are your answers. For the first one, it's 19 over 20. Second one is 13 over 24. And then the last one, when you subtract those, you're going to get 3 and 11/14 when you convert that back to a mixed number. As you can see, I showed all work, so if you have any questions, you can just look through it and see where you went wrong and hopefully be able to recognize your mistake. Alright, thank you. Have a good rest of your day.